Welcome to the Unqualified Podcast, where we believe God doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. This is a space for real, unfiltered conversations about faith, healing, and growth. Because the journey with God was never meant to be perfect, just honest. I'm your host, Paige Loehr, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's begin. Well, welcome to the Unqualified Podcast. We are finally doing this.
Wow.
Really 5 years in the making.
Yeah.
A little over.
Oh my gosh. 5.
Yeah. What's crazy is that we have tried to evolve this so many times, and obviously God's timing is perfect. But yeah, 5 years ago, we recorded a couple podcasts, never used those. Probably would be funny to listen back to the.
Oh, we will definitely pull that out of the archives.
Yeah, we need to run that as an episode one time. It should be interesting just to hear it for ourselves. But then what's funny is that you fast forward, and when God's timing is right, it's right. And so like all of a sudden we were getting together today for a different reason. It's like, hey, should we just go ahead and start this thing? So we have been through in the last year, just a little over a year. We host an event together last February, so February of 2024, and it was incredible. Awesome. It was like 280 women, and we just had a powerful time, and it was a powerful experience, and it was called Surrender. And then from there, we kind of got hit. With some things. And so it took some time for God to get us to this place where we understood what happened. And that's a different episode. I actually want to talk about that. Relationships, forged through fire. We've been through a few, but just a couple. But I am Paige Loehr, and I will be, I don't know, like,
you're the host.
I'm the host.
You are.
But what's funny is, like, I knew 100% that Danielle Welch was going to need to do this with me. And so even when I felt like the need to push forward into this, we needed to be like in sync and in unison. And, there's a lot of things that come in play, but because there's nobody else that's going to draw conversations out of me the way that she does. You can't train it. It's organic and it's God ordained. He gave us our friendship, and we're so blessed to have it. So you can introduce yourself, and then I'll give a little bit of my background as well, and then we can kind of just talk about why this podcast.
Yeah. So thanks.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, it is.
So everyone knows I have no notes.
No notes.
That's how you know this is going to be awesome.
We're just going to flow.
That's what we do. So I don't know where to look.
Where do we look? Do people want us to look at them, or do they want to?
Put that in the comment section for us. Let us know. I'll probably just look at you.
Okay.
So Danielle Welch. I have been married for coming up on 11 years.
Crazy.
4 beautiful children.
Yeah.
And outside of that, have a couple of different businesses. One of those businesses, we actually work in together. So you're a business mentor of mine and have been for all 11 years that I've been married.
Crazy.
It's like business mentor, marriage mentor,
right?
All the things. If you need it, you got it with Paige. And then a marketing agency that I started back in 2018, Bridge Consulting and Design.
Yep.
Love working with small businesses. Local small businesses is where my heart beats the strongest. But just helping businesses to realize their goals and the visions that they have for their business through marketing, advertising, even getting into like big picture, like business strategy and things along those lines. So, and then that's probably about where we'll leave it for there. So,
you don't want to get into your trauma?
No.
Deeply wounded from my past. But
no. We're gonna get into that for sure.
Sure.
Just this is cool. I'm just to pass it back over to you to give your background. I think that one of the reasons I feel honored to sit in this seat is that I, along with countless other people, can say that the way that you allow God to speak through you has helped me to find healing and really just understand what this life looks like and all that God has for me and in this life. And so I'm I'm excited to share that in future episodes. But really, I'm just excited to do whatever I can to facilitate, these conversations with you, and all that you do, and all that the way that you allow the Lord to speak through you, through your writing, through your speaking, through your just the spaces that you create for people. So I'm gonna pass it back to you now.
Yeah. So this is going to flow so well because she's going to help ask questions to help me go deeper on topics. But she's going to also, she has wisdom of her own, and she's going to be the back end of a lot of this, and very talented in that. And eventually we'll hire out, right? But very talented in what she does with her marketing agency. But that's not like, it's like the yin and yang, and that's such a huge benefit to our relationship. And me having someone like you in my life, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do if I didn't have somebody helping me push. So that's very important. But then also it's just the natural chemistry, and that is organic. And so yeah, I'm just thankful to be here, and thankful that I have somebody to do it with. I didn't ever want to go at this alone, and so I'm excited. So I have, like we said, we run a business together, and that has allowed me to create some freedoms in my life to pursue things that I wanted to pursue. I've been married for 15 years. We have 3 beautiful children, and I have designed my life around pursuing the things that I feel like God wants me to pursue. And so, at the end of the day, I'm not the person that's going to around the corner like pitch you some, like, here's how to and monetize your Christianity. Like I still have to figure out, how to monetize my own life.
So you've
right?
been having people telling you, figure something out, but
so
you're waiting on the Lord.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the Lord. I want God to do it, but I'm the person that I push for passion. And, I've been told by a pastor, so it's, it's just something to think about. Like, you need to focus more on some profit projects and not always passion projects. But I just can't help it. It's just who I am. I want to provide resources to people. I want to bring healing to people. I want to get in the trenches with people and help them grow. And so I have published 5 books. A few of those are devotionals, and 2 of them are books of poetry. Poetry is healing for me. It's an outlet that I've used since I was a child. To honestly disassociate in some instances, but to connect with myself and my emotions and be centered. And so I love poetry as a form of an outlet for me, but I love sharing it with others. And then my books, The Roots in a Woman and Sin is Finished. And then, we've hosted some events. I do some speaking. That's another thing we'll get into. I can't wait to talk about our traveling ministry experiences, coming toe to toe and head to head with the spirit of religion, and what that's looked like. But unqualified. And if you think of anything along the way, feel free to shoot it in, because this is the whole, this is the welcome episode. And I just want people to understand why the name Unqualified, and what it means for me personally, because it is deeply personal. Like, we could have named it after the business that we've run events under, Common Ground, and we've had other ideas like float around, and then this one hit and it stuck because, growing up in a single parent home and dealing with a lot of things that I dealt with, growing up in an environment where a lot of people around us were succeeding financially, and we weren't necessarily. Growing up in school and feeling like I got left behind at an early age. And so, like, I felt like a lot of chips were stacked against me. I felt like in order to succeed, it wasn't just about financial significance or success in a career. It was also about proving yourself and gaining accolades. But then, like, the turn of that on the other end of that was the simple fact that, like, I never had the option of pursuing accolades, and especially when it translated into my story with God, like, he's not allowed me that. So I'm going to explain that. I felt like I was stupid growing up. felt like I got left behind, and it was a struggle, and I just didn't feel like I had the same intelligence level as everybody else. I was sad in a lot of situations. I went through a lot of trauma growing up, so I wrote poetry. It wasn't until my junior year of high school where I got pulled to the side and found out that I scored really high in standardized testing. And they basically just said, like, you're good in this one area. So then I just felt like I had one thing, right? Like one thing I was going to be good at, one thing I could do. But at the end of the day, I didn't have the grades to go to college and not be in a ton of debt. And that was just not an option for me. So I just didn't pursue college. And so you're into your adult life. I started a business, and I was actually, I was doing well with that, working full time as well. And so I was making money and, taking care of myself, which is something that feels good when you've been through as much as I've been through. But I never felt like I was extraordinary in any way, right? And getting to the place where my faith became huge, and my entire adult life has been committed to living for God. Growing myself spiritually felt like it made me stronger or more, not significant, but like that built me enough. Like growing spiritually was more important to me eventually. But it was still like, I just felt like I was less than most people. So I see some success in our business, and I have kind of like a shift where I realize that all of those things don't matter. Like, if I can see success in a business, if I can have leadership ideas, marketing ideas, if I can connect well with others, if I can speak well from a stage, if I can change other people's lives, then surely surely that's enough. And surely like a piece of paper, like a degree or a master's degree doesn't make me worthy, right? But it was still that tension. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to write a book that would be significant one day. And so even though I was seeing some success in my life, there was still this undertone of like, you should probably go try to get a degree, go to school part-time, go to night school. And it was always that tension. Like, you need to qualify yourself if you're ever going to do anything of real significance. So when I finally got to the point of I was no longer working during the day, and I was starting to write because I felt like God had told me to, that's where I was. I'm like, okay, I'm sitting down with the Holy Spirit. I'm writing The Roots in a Woman because I'm just telling stories of how God has healed my life. And I believe it's awesome and it's powerful, but mainly it's because I'm vulnerable and I'm just being real. And I'm telling people, I got healed from anxiety. I got healed from abandonment. I got healed from lust. All of these things that God healed me from. And so then I get to the point where I'm done with this book and I'm like, what now, God? Because like, I'm nobody. I've had some success in a business, but to the rest of the world, like, what does that mean? Like, so will you allow me to go do something to get some accolades so that I can put it on the back of the book under my author picture to have some credibility? And he was like, I am your credibility. I called you and I qualify you. And so what it comes down to is we all, especially people from broken backgrounds, we feel like we have to prove ourselves and get a piece of paper to show why we are significant and to tell people why they should listen to us or why they should trust us. But for me, sorry, I keep touching my mic. For me, I carry the Spirit of God with me and I'm going to earn your trust. So why you should listen is because it's not me, and I'm not speaking from head knowledge. I'm speaking from the heart, and I'm allowing God to speak through me. But then on the other end, it's like, and then the trust factor is going to come in because I'm going to earn it. Because I'm going to show people that I have fought to get where I got, and then God took over and did the rest. And he taught me to stop fighting. And he has taken over and made me the person that I am today. And so even like I did the school of ministry at our church, and I just remember like doing 2 years of it. And every single semester it was like, do you want to make this for credit? And like something in my spirit said no. So like, I have nothing to show for it, no piece of paper. 2 months ago, because I'm like feeling the urge to get this podcast going, I look into a program and I did a discovery call. The program is great. I would love, I already operate so much like it that it would just be, once again, me paying for a title underneath my name. And God shut that down real hard. And you know that story. So here I am, and he's like, are you going to do this or not? And that's where it was like Unqualified just came rushing out. Like, I'm not qualified. I will never, ever pretend to be some scholar, theologian major. I'm not an ordained minister. That's not who I am. I am a healed woman that by the power of Christ has been completely transformed. And I just believe that I can help other people get there.
Well, that's what makes you qualified.
Right.
You are a healed woman.
Right.
That's that. I mean, it's the transformation that you've gone through on your own with God is what qualifies you.
Right.
I want to take you back to when you were talking about, earning people's trust is what we're doing here. And it made me think of, Jesus earned people's trust. But it was the religious leaders who just kept asking for his credibility. Now, he was a rabbi. But he was not credentialed as the Pharisees, the Sadducees. He did not, once it became he started to ruffle those feathers, it became all about, who are you? And so
who do you say who he says he is?
That's right. That's right.
Well, it's what's incredible about that is, oh man, it's I don't want to hit too heavy in this first on the spirit of religion, but it is going to be a really,
I was just thinking that's going to be a theme.
It's going to be and so I will let you guys know it's going to be a theme in this, because what I do and who I am is countercultural. And I think a lot of the church is getting it wrong today. Do I disagree with the church body? No. I call myself a Christian, but sometimes I hesitate to do that because I just am a Christ follower and I want to live like Christ. And some Christians make it really difficult. We're going to this podcast, we're going to talk about the things that the church doesn't necessarily talk about. We're going to talk about church hurt. We're going to talk about what it looks like in modern day to come against Pharisees when you carry the spirit of Christ and actually come against that spirit. At every turn, Jesus was being tested. They wanted to know if he knew the law. They wanted to know if he was going to break the law, right? And on many instances he did, and that's why they had grounds to crucify him. But he came to override the law. And he is, if you think about it, he is the new law. He is the one that comes and overcomes sin and completely puts that under his feet. And so we are able to live by a new spirit, free of the sin nature. And so what's the need of law when you're free of the sin nature, or the people believing they're born into depravity, when really we are image bearers of Christ? And so especially once you let your life be transformed and you're submitted to the Holy Spirit, you are a new creature. You are not the same. And so you don't need the same governing laws. They're biblical. There's obviously a moral compass that you learn by reading your word, which I do recommend, but you cannot operate how everyone else operates when you are a spiritual being. But you can sit with people just like Jesus did. What Pharisees couldn't do, because they were operating by law alone, and that made them feel superior. Their knowledge made them feel superior. They couldn't lower themselves to sit with the people. And it freaked them out that Jesus did that. And so for all of the ways he was unqualified, he was perfectly perfectly qualified to look people in the eye and to bring them healing from disease, healing from sickness, healing from tormenting spirits that they had dealt with their whole lives, healing from judgment, from shame, from guilt, from condemnation. He did so much in such a short period of time because he operated in the freedom of himself, Christ, and that's who I am, and that's what I want to do, and that's how I want to be, because that's how we're all called to be.
Yeah. And it's not just who you are, it's also how, like, you want to help other. That's part of what this is all about.
Right.
You are not just doing this podcast, the writing, the speak. You don't do all that you do just so that people can look at you and say, wow, look, no, your whole heartbeat is to help other people get to this place where you feel like you're at right now.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. That's because that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's nothing more difficult for me to, like, I can't accept being put on a pedestal because I'm going to make mistakes and I'm not perfect. And because I know how much I've overcome and I know what my life used to look like. But people will put me on a pedestal. And my number one agenda when I know that is to make sure they know the reason I share these things. I'm thankful that it inspires you. I'm thankful that it touches a place of your heart or your mind, or I give language to things that you've been thinking and feeling for a long time, which is what I hope this podcast will do. But the main thing for me is to immediately say, like, the reason I'm doing this is because I want things to be unlocked in you to where you can evolve to the place where you feel strong, you feel powerful, you allow God to speak through you, you break chains in other people's lives, you prophesy over people, you help people find healing through Christ. Like, I want to equip people to know that, like, I'm not the holy one in the room, or I'm not the anointed one in the room. I'm not the gifted one in the room. I was one that you encountered. And if you let me, I want to see that you become that as well. And that's what we're called to do. That's what we're called to be. That's how we're called to disciple others, is to make sure that when what we leave behind is not somebody bleeding on the floor after we minister, but what we leave behind is someone that picks up their mat and says, well, I'm probably going to follow you and I'm going to learn your ways. That's the point of this. So it does help. It's like my calling or my mandate, but it helps people, like, dismantle this pedestal when I'm like, I'm not some educated person. I don't have a master's degree. I will tell you, I've studied this for years. I've really dug into this. This is my opinion. This is what I've come to learn. This is what I've come to find out, but I'm not any better but that's what everybody can do, right? Everybody can go dive into something that they're hungry to learn more about. So I am no different. I'm no better. That's so important to me. Because I also have seasons where I need to sit down, and I feel like I'm just now coming out of a season that felt a lot like that. And if somebody puts me on a pedestal, then if I need to sit down, it's too much pressure. It's too much pressure. And it kind of there's a little bit of an idolization factor, and Jesus is the one. We were at an event, a powerful event in December, and this person wasn't new enough to the faith and what they were seeing that I knew if I just went into praying that it was going to be uncomfortable and a little bit intimidating. So I just looked at her in the eye and I just said a few things, and she was like, whoa, like, how did you do that? And I was like, no, that was not me. God just spoke to you and he used me. And the only reason I can do that is because, bring it back to what I said before, I thought I was stupid. And I didn't think I was worth anything. And so when all of a sudden the Spirit of God hits me and I'm filled with words of knowledge, I knew it wasn't me. So I'm thankful. I no longer think I'm stupid. I'm thankful for my story of origin, that brought me to that place where it made hearing the voice of God pretty simple. It made understanding that wasn't me pretty easy. Because a lot of people can get puffed up and like, oh yeah, I'm really good.
Yeah.
I'm really cool. I mean, it's cool. Like, I love it. I'm honored to be a part of that process. Yeah. I can't say that that's not awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I needed to make sure she knew that. Yes. Like, hey, like that was awesome what I just said, but it's even more awesome that it was God, actually.
Yeah.
So just like focus on that, you know. So, and then, you know, it's like we decide all of a sudden that we're doing this podcast. So like right now we're in a guest bedroom. I think eventually our set will evolve. I hope, I believe, right? Yeah. I have high expectations for us, but we're looking at a bunk bed right there and another bed right there. And I'm literally in my sister's guest bedroom. I don't have a house right now. I live in my mom's basement. I'm as unqualified as it gets. You have a beautiful home, but you also have 4 children running around. The gamble of this being interrupted is pretty high. And so I think it's fitting, you know, I think it's like God did this and he's like, now is a good time. And I'm like, that's funny.
Yeah.
Cause like, you know, eventually in my home, I'll have a space where we can do this, but like,
yeah, we're not worried. Yeah.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah.
We might be in a van down by the river next episode.
Gosh,
no, I'm just kidding.
I love that. That's so funny. Well, I mean, I could even say it's a little bit of a tangent, but
yeah.
I mean, probably a couple of years ago when we were really looking at, you know, doing something like this, we would have been a little bit worried about where was it? What does it look like? We would have had a little bit too much weight being thrown at what was the appearance and what would the opinions of people be.
Yeah.
So God's taken us through some really cool, like, just thought process changes on all of that too. Like, we threw this together. We didn't decide until about 2 hours ago where we were meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Morgan.
Yeah. And that's just how it should be.
And thank
you
you, husbands, for watching our children.
Right.
Your children.
That's the real MVP, you know, because that's going to be what's interesting about this. That's why we have to record a few before we even start releasing. Yeah. Sorry. Because you guys, you want it consistent, right? Yeah. We would have overthought it. We would have felt like we needed all the right equipment and all the fancy setup. And we want, you know, I think there's been a lot of humbling and not in the like, oh, we're trying to be prideful and arrogant. It's like it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And I believe the things that we have to say are going to be powerful enough. So, so maybe we can wrap up with this, but like, I don't know, what are some things that you can foresee us talking about? I have a list of some things. I want to talk about hearing from God. Yeah. What that looks like, what that sounds like, some pretty cool stories, how sometimes I hear God through secular music.
Yes. Paige.
Dang it. I'm so horrible.
I hope you know that. That's a very sarcastic laugh on my part. Yeah. You're going to get to know us and our sense of humor is real quick.
Pretty quick.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, I love that. So another thing to look forward to is God's not afraid of tough conversations. So wrestling with God, what that looks like. Don't look back. You know, the message that don't look back, you're not going there. I think that's absolutely false. And I have a lot of thoughts to that. And so we're going to talk about
like when people, I'm just going to say people will use the Lot and his wife story and like she turned into a pillar of salt. Like when they really use that for trying to get a message across. Yeah. And we're going to like kind of counter that a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to counter that because she's looking back to what God is trying to bring her out of, right? Mm-hmm. He's bringing her out of something and she's been given specific directions not to look back. Mm-hmm. And she does. So there was disobedience. It's like, it's so much more about the disobedience and what God's trying to bring her into versus the message of don't look back. You're not going there because the church is not equipped to help people through their trauma. And so they're just rather you not think about it. Yeah. Just like, oh, you know, one and done prayer, you know, a touch to the head and you should be good. Those thoughts shouldn't swirl through your mind anymore.
Oh gosh.
You know, anxiety, be gone. And it's like,
Well, I'm more anxious.
Yeah,
now.
I'm like, that was, now I'm freaking out. No. But like how God how he's taken us both. Like
Yeah.
we've both had really cool encounters with like looking at our past self
Yeah.
and having so much healing. So it's not ruminate on your issues. It is how to do story work right
Yeah.
to bring healing to your life. And so we're going to cover that.
Mm.
We're going to cover, like, I want to talk about some of these ministry trips we've been on and what it looked like to come against the spirit of religion. Now, the point is not to call out, and I will never call out a ministry.
No.
I do not believe in being the type of Christian that judges other people and calls people out. I will share my experience in order to bring light to other people's experience. Like maybe you've encountered the spirit of religion
That's right.
and you didn't know how to handle it, or you still don't know how to handle it, and you're trying to heal. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about, there's going to be a lot of things, but a lot of times I don't intend to be countercultural. I just can be, because I look at the bigger picture and because I allow the Holy Spirit to guide me.
Yeah.
You know,
I think what it is it's only countercultural because you're willing to speak about the things that other people aren't.
right. Yeah.
I think that's what makes it potentially countercultural.
Right.
Because it's not what's normally talked about.
Right.
Or acceptable to talk about.
Right.
So your messages could potentially run up against some friction.
Yeah.
But it's not anything other than your experiences,
right.
your truth, if you will,
Yeah.
and in sharing that it's just giving somebody else language,
right.
or the opportunity to feel seen, even though
right.
you may not know it. You know, it's not to be aggressive. We're not trying to go after anything.
No.
It's more so just creating that space for people
Yeah.
to really be able to feel seen, heard, safe, and then that ultimately is what gives them the freedom to do what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Which is to equip them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's never to, like, you know me, I will sit in disagreement with something and just, like, this is my opinion. I'll keep it to myself. I might share it with people that I'm close with,
Yep.
but I'm not going to, stand up and flip a table unless I feel like I'm really supposed to. But I'll deal with even a great measure of disrespect coming at me and handle it pretty, like, hands off, which is the opposite of how I grew up, by the way. I was a scrapper. Like, it took me my entire life to get to this point where I could be as peaceful as I am today and choose to not fight back and choose to not fight my own battles and let God do it.
Yeah.
So I'm not ever trying to come at anybody. Like, the last thing I want even is to provoke Christians to the point where they want to get into, scripture wars or battles, or say, well, you're wrong about this, or you're wrong about this, or correct.
Yeah.
And I think, we might experience some of that, but like at the end of the day, I just want people to feel safe. I want people that are not believers necessarily to be able to listen to this podcast and feel seen. Maybe people that were believers, but were so hurt by the church or just not helped, and be able to come and listen to this podcast and feel like, oh my gosh, I feel like I can begin to reach my hand out and touch the hem of my Savior's garment again, because they're showing me a way through the crowd.
Yeah.
And that's what I want this to be. So I'm excited. It's just like a preview of a couple things that we're going to chat about. And we'll take other,
yes.
Suggestions, things that you want to hear, questions that you want asked, do some Q&As and things like that, questions that you want answered.
Wherever you're listening to this or watching from, like,
Yeah.
there should be an opportunity to drop comments or
Yeah.
ask questions or whatever. And we'll go through those.
Yeah.
And we want some of the thoughts or questions that you guys have to be fuel to this conversation, because you're who we're doing this for.
Yeah. So yeah, we're excited. We both love God, and He is the center of our lives.
Yeah.
And we have dedicated our entire lives to Him, and seen His kingdom come and glorifying His name. Yeah. And so we want this podcast to do that. But we also want to see you guys feel the same and start operating the same and experience a new level of healing and a fresh fire in your life, because God is so good. And Jesus is living and active in the earth. And He is especially, this podcast is not just for women, but He is especially doing something in His and his girls right now.
Yeah.
I think it's special. I think we're gonna run the world. No, I think we're gonna lead the next revival.
Yeah.
Is what I think. And I have a theory behind that, which is another episode. So
it's another thing.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
It's because we know how to be the bride.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I digress.
So hope you enjoyed this this welcome episode, and just kind of us being able to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing here, a little bit about ourselves, and why we call it Unqualified. And you'll see more of that as we continue to go on. So we love you guys.
Bye.